Hi guys, hello family. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Ruby Emma. Thank you guys for the support. We are growing. We are almost there. We are growing. We are almost there. Yeah, reaching for 300 subscribers and even more and more and more. Right? For those who are tuning for the first time, thank you so much for your love and your support. For those who've been here from day one, Danko Siabong, I appreciate you so much. And we continue with our book. If you are left behind, please do catch up. Please do catch up on this series of the 5 love languages. And today, we are at the final one. And we are talking about physical touch. My favorite. So let's hear what it says. Married people, we have long known that physical touch is a way of communicating emotional love. Numerous research projects in the area of children development have made that conclusion. Babies who are held, stroked, and kissed develop a healthier emotional life than those who are left for a long period of time without physical touch. Physical touch is also a powerful vehicle for communicating marital love. Holding hands, kissing, embracing, and sexual intercourse are all ways of communicating emotional love to one's spouse. For other individuals, physical touch is their primary love language. Without it, they feel unloved. With it, their emotional love tank is filled, and they will feel secure in the love of their spouse. Interesting, Nibe. The power of touch. For the 5 senses, touching, unlike the other 4, is not limited to one localized area of the body. When those who are touched or pressed, nerves carry impulse to the brain. The brain interprets these impulses, and we perceive that the thing that touched us is warm or cold, hard or soft. It causes pain or pleasure. We may also interpret it as a loving or hostile. Some parts of the body are more sensitive than others. Our purpose, however, is not to understand the sense of touch, but rather its psychological importance. Physical touch can make or break a relationship. It can communicate hate or love. To the person whose love language is physical touch, the message will be far louder than the words, I hate you or I love you. Physical abuse is always wrong to any relationship, but it is practically devastating to a person whose primary love language is touch. A tender hug communicates love to any child, but it shouts love to the child whose primary love language is physical touch. The same is true for adults. In marriage, the touch of love may take many forms. Since touch are located throughout the body, lovingly touching your spouse almost everywhere can be an expression of love. That does not mean that all touches are created equal. Some will bring more pleasures to your spouse than others. Your best instructor is your spouse, of course. After all, she is the one you are seeking to love. She knows the best what she perceives as a loving touch. Don't insist on touching her in your way and in your time. Learn to speak her love dialect. Your spouse may find some touches uncomfortable or irritating. To consist on continuing those touches is to communicate the opposite of love. It is saying that you are not sensitive to her needs and that you care little about her perceptions of what is pleasant. Don't make this mistake of believing that the touch that brings pleasure to you will also bring pleasure to her. Love touches may be sometimes a demand. You are full of attention, such in a back rub or sexual foreplay. On the other hand, love touches may be implicate and require only a moment, such as putting your hand in his shoulder as you pour a cup of coffee, or rubbing your body against him as you pass in the kitchen. Explicit love touches obviously take more time, not only in actual touching, but in developing your understanding of how to communicate love to your spouse this way. If a back massage communicates love loudly to your spouse, then time and money and energy you spent in learning to be good will be well invested. If sexual intercourse is your mate's primary dialect, reading about discussing the art of sexual love making will enhance your expression of love. Love touches require little time but much thought, especially if physical touch is not your primary love language. And if you did not grow up in a touching family, sitting close to each other as you watch your favorite television program requires no additional time but may communicate your love loudly. Touching your spouse as you walk through the room where he's sitting takes only a moment. Touching each other when you leave the house and again when you return may involve only a brief kiss or a hug, but will speak volumes to your spouse. Amen to that. Once you discover that physical touch is the primary love language of your spouse, you are limited only by your imagination on ways to express love. Coming up with new ways and places to touch can be an exciting challenge. If you have not been an under the table toucher, you might find that it will add a spark to your dining out. If you don't normally kiss as soon as you get into the car together, you may find that it will greatly enhance your travels. Hugging your spouse before she goes shopping may not only express love, it may bring her home sooner. Try new touches in new places and let your spouse give you feedback on whether he finds it pleasurable or not. Remember, he has the final word. You are learning to speak his love language. The body is for touching. Whatever there is for me resides in my body. To touch my body is to touch me. To withdraw from my body is to distance yourself from me emotionally. In our society, shaking hands is a way of communicating openness and social closeness to another individual. When a rare occasion one man refuses to shake hands with another, it communicates a message that things are not right in their relationship. All societies have some form of physical touching as a means of social greeting, but that serves the same function as our shaking hands. There are appropriate and inappropriate ways to touching members of the opposite sex in every society. The recent attention to sexual harassment is highlighted in appropriate ways. Within marriage, however, what is inappropriate and inappropriate touching is determined by the couple themselves within certain boards' guidelines. Physical abuse is of course deemed inappropriate by society, and social organizations have formed to help the battered wife and the battered husband. Clearly, our bodies are for touching, but not for abuse. If your spouse's primary love language is physical touch, nothing is more important than holding her as she cries. This age is characterized as the age of sexual openness and freedom. Those who do not object on moral grounds eventually object on emotional grounds. Something about our need for intimacy and love does not allow us to give our spouse such freedom. The emotional pain is deep, and intimacy evaporates when we are aware that our spouse is involved with someone else sexually. Counselors' files are filled with records of husbands and wives who are trying to grapple with the emotional trauma of an unfaithful spouse. That trauma, however, is compounded for the individual whose primary love language is physical touch, that for which he longs so deeply. Love expressed by physical touch is now being given to another. His emotional love tank is not only empty, it has been riddled by the explosion. It will take massive repairs for those emotional needs to be met. Crisis and physical touch. Physical touch is a powerful communicator of love. In a time of crisis, more than anything, we need to feel loved. We cannot always change events, but we can survive if we feel loved. All marriage will experience crisis. The death of parents, accident, cripple and kill thousands each year. Diseases is no respecter of persons. Disappointments are a part of life. The most important thing you can do for your mate in a time of crisis is to love him or her. If your spouse's primary love language is physical touch, nothing is more important than holding her as she cries. Your words may mean little, but your physical touch will communicate that you care. Amen to that. Crises provide a unique opportunity for expressing love. Your tender touches will be remembered long after the crisis has passed. Your failure to touch may never be forgotten. True. So true. Marriage is not supposed to be this way. Since my first visit to West Palm Beach, Florida, many years ago, I have always welcomed invitation to lead marriage seminar in the area. It was one such occasion that I met Joe and Maria. They were not native to Florida, but they lived there for 10 years and called West Palm Beach home. They had invited me to spend the night. And I knew from experience that such a request usually meant a late night counseling session. As the evening proceeded, I thoroughly enjoyed Joy and Maria's company. I found them to be happier married couple. For a counselor, that is odd. I was eager to discover their secret, but being extremely tired and knowing that they were going to drive me to the airport the next day, I decided to do my probing when I was feeling more alert, and we had 45 minutes in the car together. Maria and Joe began to tell me their story. In the early years of their marriage, they had tremendous difficulties. They had grown up in the same community, attended the same church, and graduated from the same high school. They liked the same music, the same sport, the same movies. They seemed to possess all common common things that are supposed to assure fewer conflicts in marriage. They began dating in their senior year in high school. They attended separate colleges but saw each other frequently and were married 3 weeks after he received his degree in business and she a degree in nursing. 2 months later, they moved to Florida, where Joe had offered a good job. The first 3 months were exciting, moving, finding a new apartment, enjoy life together. They were about 6 months into the marriage when Maria began to feel that Joe was withdrawing from her. He was working longer hours, and when he was at home, he spent considerable time with the computer. When she finally expressed her feelings that he was avoiding her, Joe told her that he was not avoiding her but simply trying to stay on top of his job. He said that she didn't understand the pressure he was under and how important it was that he do well in the first year on the job. Maria wasn't pleased, but she decided to give him space. She began to develop friendships with other wives who lived in the apartment complex. Often when she knew Joe was working late, she would go shopping with one of the friends instead of coming straight home after work. Sometimes she was not at home when Joe arrived. That annoyed him greatly, and he accused her of being thoughtless and irresponsible. Maria: who's irresponsible? You don't even call me and let me know when you'll be home. How can I be there? How can I be here for you when I don't even know when you'll be here? And you are here, you spend all your time working. You don't need a wife, all you need is a computer. Eish. To which Joe shot back, I do need a wife. Don't you understand? That's the whole point. I do need a wife. But Maria did not understand. She was extremely confused in her search for answers. She went to the public library and checked out several books on marriage. Marriage is not supposed to be this way, she reasoned. I have to find an answer to our situation. When Joe went onto his laptop, Maria would pick up her book. In fact, on many evenings, she would read until midnight. On his way to bed, Joy would notice her and make sarcastic comments such as, if you read that book in college, you would have been made straight A's. Maria would respond, I'm not in college, I'm in a marriage right now. I'd be satisfied with a C. Joe would be in bed without so much as a second glance. At the end of the first year, Maria was desperate. She had mentioned it before. But this time she calmly said to Joe, I'm going to find a marriage counselor. Do you want to go with me? But Joe answered, I don't need a marriage counselor. I don't have time to go to a marriage counselor. I can't afford marriage counseling. Then I'll go alone, said Maria. Fine. You are the one who needs counseling anyway. The conversation was over. Maria felt totally alone, but the next week she made an appointment with a marriage therapist. After 3 sessions, the counselor called Joe and asked if would he be willing to come in to talk about his perspective on their marriage. Joe agreed, and the process of healing began. 6 months later, they left the counselor's office with a new marriage. I said to them, what did you learn in counseling that turned your marriage around? In essence, Dr. Chapman, Joe said, we learned to speak each other's love language. The counselor did not use that term, but as you gave the lecture today, it came to me. My mind raced back to our counseling experience, and I realized that's exactly what happened to us. We finally learned to speak to each other's love language. So what is your love language, Joe? I asked. Physical touch he said without hesitation. Physical touch for sure, said Maria. And yours? Quality time, Dr. Chapman. That's what I was crying for in those days while he was spending all his time with his job and his computer. How did you learn that physical touch was Joe's love language? It took a while, Maria said. Little by little, it began to come out in counseling. At first, I don't think he even realized it. It's true, Joe said. I never told her that I wanted to be touched, although I was crying inside for her to reach out and touch me. In our dating relationship, I had always taken initiative in touching, but she had always been responsive. I felt that she loved me, but after we got married, there were times that I reached out to her physically and nothing. Maybe with her new job responsibility, she was too tired. I don't know, but I took it personally. I felt that she didn't find me attractive. Then I decided I wouldn't even try because I don't want to be rejected. So I waited to see how long it'll be before she should initiate a kiss or a touch or sexual intercourse. Once I waited for 6 weeks before she touched me at all. I couldn't stand it. My withdrawal was to stay away from the pain I felt when I was with her. Then Maria said, I had no idea that was what he was feeling. I knew that he was not reaching out to me. We weren't touching at all. But just assume that since we were married, that was not as important to him. I go weeks without touching him. It didn't cross my mind. I was working, taking care of things at home and trying to stay out of his way. I honestly didn't know that what else I could be doing. I didn't understand why he wasn't paying attention to me. The thing is, spending time with me is what made me feel loved and appreciated. It really didn't matter whether he hugged or kissed, as long as he gave me his attention. I felt love. Once Joe and Maria discovered they were not meeting each other's needs for love, they began to turn things around. It was like I heard a new husband, she said. What amazed me at the seminar today, Joe added, was the way your lecture on love language carried me back all these years to that experience. You said in 20 minutes what it took us 6 months to learn. Well, I said, it's not how fast you learn it, but how well you learn it that matters. And obviously, you have learned it well. Joe is the only one of many individuals for whom physical touch is the primary love language. Emotionally, they yearn for spouses to reach out and touch them physically, running their hand through their hair, giving a back rub, holding hands, embracing, sexual intercourse, all of those and other love touches are the emotional lifeline of the person for whom physical touch is the primary love language. Now it's your turn. Recall some non-sexual touching times that enhanced intimacy between the two of you. What made these times special? Please do leave a comment. Let's hear. Physical touch. As you walk from the car to go shopping, reach out and hold your spouse's hand. When you shop for your spouse, look for things that will appeal to their tactile nature. Walk up to your spouse and say, have I told you lately that I love you? Take her in your arms and hug her while you rub her feet and continue. You are the best. When you sit together in church, Reach over and hold your spouse's hand during times of prayer. Initiate sex by giving your spouse a foot massage. Continue other parts of the body as long as it brings pleasure to your spouse. When family or friends are visiting, touch your spouse in their presence. A hug, running your hand along his or her arm, putting your arm around him as you stand talking, or simply placing your hand on her shoulder can earn double emotional points. Couples separated by circumstances such as development use a variety of strategies to touch when they cannot be physically together, says author and former military wife Jocelyn Green. For an example, a handwriting letter feels more tangible than an email. Some wives will wear an old shirt of their husband's around the house. One wife said, "I feel like he's hugging me when I wear his shirt." Sending a photo of yourself gives your spouse something of you to touch. Hallelujah. And that's it about physical touch. I hope you guys learned a lot. One or two things. I love this one. Physical touch is mine. It's for me. It was written for me. Even my husband knows. Thank you guys for listening and for tuning in. I appreciate you. I love you. Please do comment, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.